Good morning, hi, and welcome to everybody tuning in to another Academy on Air live stream. Very excited to have you. My name is Yusuf Malik. I am one of the automation specialists in Dublin in our EMEA headquarters. And today I'm super excited to talk to you about a topic that's super close to my heart that I'm working on pretty much every day. And walk you through the basics and like the stuff that we're doing with machine learning. I hope you're all excited, and as excited as I am. Please feel free to use the Academy on Air Twitter handle to talk about this and spread the news so that also other people can learn what Google is doing in terms of cool things around machine learning. All right, so let's get started and jump right in. So the first question is, what is machine learning? Machine learning is a term that gets thrown around a lot, especially lately over the last, let's say, 1 or 2 years. It's the new and cool buzzword that's all around. But what does it actually mean? What does it actually do? So first of all, we have to think back where like the whole, hey, I want a machine to do humanly things. I want the machine to make my life easier movement comes from. Actually, robots are exactly what we thought this should be. And the term robot was only coined in 1920 in the Czech Republic during a play. And from that time until today, people became more and more creative in, hey, I want to build a machine that does this and that job for me and making their life easier, eventually making our economy more automated all around. And machine learning is really only the latest and greatest thing where we bring this to life, right? Machine learning itself is actually not that old, not that young, sorry. It's actually something that was invented, and the theory behind it was invented, I think, during the 60s and 70s. And only now that we have the compute power to actually bring all these theories to life, it's becoming a thing that's getting applicable or becoming applicable across a lot of industries. Right, so it's not a new thing. It's actually a fairly old thing, but it's only now coming to life. So let's look at all these buzzwords and where this comes from. So you might have seen this, like we're Intuit, a famous company that's taking or like helping people to manage their expenses and taxes. They use machine learning, for example, to make their products easier to use. Also, we have SoundCloud, and SoundCloud helps people discovering new tracks that you might like based on everything that you have heard, like listened to before. Some other stuff is, for example, Microsoft showcasing that the Internet of Things and the Azure cloud, like their products, are using more and more machine learning to help customers win and deal with the challenges of the Internet of Things. And also, we have a lot of startups coming around and trying to apply what they can do with machine learning to actually help them or their customers even more to make better decisions. For example, here, helping men to buy clothes. That's probably something for me. All right, so this is really what like the whole buzz is about. It's about helping people. But what is machine learning actually? Like, how does it actually work? How does it come to life? And here's a very small, nice experiment and a quick exercise. I know that you guys like doing the interactive stuff, so let's do this here. So I want you all to follow along with me. This is basically machine learning in a nutshell. So if you get the concept behind this, you get what machine learning is all about. Not the technicalities. You don't need to be a coder, but you get the idea behind it, and that's what's really important here. So let's look at the first piece of the sequence, 3 and 9. So that's the first example. Let's think about how these two numbers are in a relationship, how they connect to each other. Look at the second one, 4 and 16, and the third, 8 and 64. So now you might be able to detect sort of a pattern here. So if I gave you the task of putting a number where the question mark is right now, what would you come up with? I'll give you a few minutes or a few moments to think about this. All right, 3, 9, 4, 16, 8, 64. And you've probably guessed right here. The right number is 81. So what was that? What is the idea behind that? The idea is to detect a pattern. And what you've seen is that it's a square pattern. So if you square 3, you get to 9. And if you square 9, so 9 times 9, you get to 81. So by giving you the first few examples, I showed you a repetitive pattern, something that occurs over and over and over again, and helps you understand how something works, how two things or even more things. So think about having more numbers in here, for example, more dimensions in here, how things relate to each other. So whenever I give you the next, for example, number E here with, for example, 10, you would be able to compute that without me teaching you or hard coding you to square all the numbers to get to the result. And this is basically what machine learning does. It teaches you by example. It's the way that humans learn. And exactly that is what we're trying to also teach machines. We're trying machines to learn from repetitive patterns, from data from the past, so they can make a decision based on what they learned to predict something for the future. This is basically machine learning in a nutshell. So as you see here is, you looked at A to Z, learned, and then applied that learning to example D. So it's all about learning from experiences. And this is exactly, as I said, what machine learning does. Quite cool, isn't it? So here again, repetition. The computers right now, like if we look into programming, how we programmed apps, for example, in the past, is that we had a set of instructions that the machine ran over and over again, if we had a loop, for example, and they just did what was in the recipe. It's like cooking after a recipe, really. And you went through that recipe, and in the end of that recipe, you always get to the same outcome. But in this case, we're not teaching computers exactly what they need to do. We're giving them past experiences and data and ask them to come up with a pattern, to find a pattern that's occurring over and over again, so that if we give them a new situation, they're able to handle it and come up with a result that is in line with their past experience. Very much like human beings are learning. All right, so why is this very important? Why is the whole concept of machine learning so important also when it comes to online, digital, and marketing? So at first, Google is a huge believer and has done a ton of research when it comes to machine learning. It is something that will transform our economy. It's going to happen online and offline, and it's going to help us making decisions a lot quicker without human beings actually having to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So it's all about making our lives easier and enabling human brains to actually take care of stuff that human brains are made for. Let's say, for example, creativity. But like all the heavy lifting and the data analysis and crunching numbers, something that a lot of us usually don't like, that's done better by a computer because the computer can make it more efficient and quicker, right? The second piece is that this technology will have an impact, and this is something I said already, it's going to have an impact in so many industries. It's going to have an impact in healthcare. We have some examples later on about, as I said, healthcare, the financial industry, and an industry, for example, that I have been in before joining Google, in the energy economy, where we can see these benefits of becoming more efficient, basically with respect to the energy economy, making sure that we're not wasting precious resources. So we're getting all the light that we want and all the heating that we want while only spending the minimum amount of resources. The third piece, and this is something I also already touched on, is that machine learning is something that allows us to solve very complex tasks super quick. Right? It's something that we don't need to hard code a program for, or we don't need to hard code and program a computer for every single detail. They can figure out some of the things by just looking at past data. And by doing that, we can actually solve problems extremely quickly. So this is why machine learning is one of the key technologies for this century or even this millennium. And it's something that we all need to pay close attention to, especially if you're working in digital, especially if you're working in marketing. You should pay attention to machine learning because it's making our life easier. We're becoming more efficient. It's going to save us resources, money, and it will help us eventually, hopefully, increase our return on invest on the stuff that we're investing in. So this is why this session is super important. This session is going to be a very foundational session on machine learning itself, but also connected to some of the technologies and some of the stuff that we're bringing, for example, to AdWords later this year. So first takeaway from this session, and this is probably something you should all take into your companies, please make machine learning a priority for you. It's something for everybody. You can apply machine learning so easily. Most of these tools are even open source if you think about TensorFlow, but that's really something for people that are more advanced. And if you don't know how to code, there's still a lot of opportunities for you to leverage machine learning and machine learning tools. Because, for example, Google is just providing them for you. And the only thing that you need is to apply them to your daily life to make your life easier. So that's the idea behind machine learning. All right, let's go a little deeper. And let's look into how machine learning, like I've been mentioning that it's like a human learning or like a brain learning. Let's look into how it actually works. So one of the best examples to look at that is basically to use pictures, because humans are really good, for example, at understanding if in this picture, if there's a cat or a dog in that basket. And we're just like, our brains are trained to understand if there's a cat or a dog in the basket. But if we go a little bit deeper, we can also teach machines how to recognize these things. And the way this works is by using, for example, a technique that's called neural networks. Basically how it works is that we use a picture, right? We put in a picture. And then there is a input layer. That's the bottom layer here that has the most dots on it. And this input layer is understanding what kind of edges are in the picture. It basically looks at every pixel and how the pixels relate to each other. So which pixels are next to each others. And then it's going, like this input is getting condensed into more and more layers. That's why it's called a deep neural network. And then like it's going from layer to layer where neurons, which are nodes, little small nodes that recognize connections between the layers, basically light up. And eventually there's an output layer that is telling me, hey, it's very likely that this is a cat or a dog. So eventually the only thing that we're needing here is some input variables, some neurons and layers that recognize the, for example, color of a pixel and the relationship from one pixel to the other one, and then some statistics to determine how likely this is going to be a dog or a cat. This is in very simple language how, for example, a computer could recognize if there is a dog or a cat in a YouTube video. And this is what we're using, for example, in YouTube. Right? So this is the more and more technical way to explain how machine learning works. This is not important to know if you're applying machine learning techniques. It's just a very nice to know. So let's dive into where we already do use machine learning every day, because that is actually something that a lot of us, including me, are using every day without actually recognizing that we're doing it. And what's really important here is that there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that, well, is going over our head. It's basically something that is all around us already. It's just that buzzword machine learning that's getting thrown around all day. That might make it come across a little bit confusing. But let's dive into these examples to get you more familiar with what applications we have. So we have got 5 examples here. The first one is the virtual assistant, for example, the Google Home, which is a very tangible and like googly example. The next piece is around traffic prediction, online fraud, delivery services, and unique recommendations. These are all things that usually, if we want to do it by hand, like with manual work, or even with the help of a normal non-machine learning computer program, they would take a lot of processing power and a lot of very detailed and error-prone programming. It's probably not even possible to do it through normal computer programs without the help of machine learning. So let's dive into it. The first thing is the virtual assistant. How this applies machine learning is by looking into your prior interactions and learning from them. So for example, if you might have a Google Home, you might have recognized that over time, with more usage, the Google Home understands and identifies your voice better and better. So it might be that the device is in your bedroom and your bathroom is close by, but there's still a room in between. And if you weren't able to like just shout at it, play some music in the morning while you're in the shower and it didn't realize or recognize it, it might actually recognize it later on after you talk to it for a while, because it learns that, hey, this is how the sound and how the voice of this person sounds like. So it actually understands you better and better over time because it realizes and recognizes the patterns in your language and in your voice better. This is how the Google Assistant uses, for example, machine learning for voice recognition. Second example, this is the Waze app. It's an app that helps you getting around traffic, for example. And how it uses machine learning is by going into traffic prediction. So it tries to understand from prior experiences of other drivers, for example, that also use the app, where maybe it might be the fastest route because it's the least distance between 2 points. But hey, this street is usually super crowded, and we should really find a way around it, even though it's a little longer. So a normal routing app would route you through the shortest route, whereas this one would route you around it, making you actually arrive earlier because you're avoiding, for example, a traffic jam. And this is something where I feel like it's coming very much to life, because this is something that we all do if we're regular commuters to work, for example. We know after driving a route for a number of times that, hey, this is a crossroad that's always clogged, or hey, there's always this, I don't know, like there's always a traffic jam coming up, and I should really avoid this. So in our brains, we already do the same thing that this app is doing with machine learning. We apply the learnings from past experiences and really like deviate from the quickest route, right? So this is basically mirroring what we would do as normal human beings, but in an app. Next example, fraud detection. So for example, PayPal uses machine learning to protect against money laundering or fraud. So the way it does it, it basically looks at, hey, these are the regions, these are the kinds of people, these are the businesses that are more prone to being attacked by fraud. And then it basically, if you're likely to be a victim of fraud, it basically pushes out the question, hey, did you really spend these 5,000 pounds in Guam yesterday? To just really make sure that it's you spending that money, not a fraudster. And again, machine learning here is applied for pattern recognition, because the most fraud is probably happening in a similar way. And this way they can actually detect it without human intervention and notify you super quickly. Another really, really nice, very relatable example here for me, for at least, is the delivery services. And for example, how Domino's is using machine learning. So the way they do it is actually by predicting, based on past experiences, how long it usually takes for the pizza to arrive at your doorstep. And I have at least found that they are super accurate with that. And honestly, like if you can predict exactly when your pizza is going to arrive by looking at past experiences and how long it took in the past, this signal makes you doubt even less that it's not going to arrive. So if you're sitting there on your couch, you're just waiting for your pizza to arrive, and you know exactly when the driver is going to ring the bell, that gives you peace of mind. And honestly, I've been a lot happier since this feature was implemented. That was a very nice and tangible way of applying machine learning, at least for me. And something that's also very close to my heart is unique recommendations. I have come to love Spotify's Discover Weekly promotion. They put together a playlist of songs just for me based on what I like, what I didn't like, what I'm listening to, what I'm not listening to. And honestly, I found that they have hit my gusto perfectly. I find myself only listening to that Discover Weekly playlist over and over again because it's so good. And then I like start putting pluses behind the songs that I like the most. And those recommendations are becoming better and better and better. And sometimes they even pick up new stuff that I probably did not listen to in a long while. But because they're smart, they understand that I don't only want to listen to Taylor Swift, maybe sometimes, but also, for example, to heavy metal. That is a genre that I also really enjoy. So they put together a very interesting mix of stuff that I'm very probable to like. And I felt, as I said, that they hit it very well. And this is also another very nice, tangible example of machine learning. All right, so these are very tangible examples of where machine learning is getting applied. And I'm pretty sure that you had a few of these experiences as well. And takeaway for me is that it is just super handy. It is something that's making my life more convenient. And in a business context, it's also helping me. So let's look into other industries that are going to be disrupted. For example, healthcare. You know that if you're doing CAT scans, so computer-aided diagnosis, where you lay into that barrel, people are taking pictures of your organs and like your brain and your body in general. It's always coming down to one doctor to spot that dark spot in your organs or like in your intestines and in your body that might be cancerous. And eventually the question is, isn't it very likely that maybe somebody is missing some of these dark spots, and as a result, you might suffer from a disease for the rest of your life? So we have these beautiful technologies like the computer-aided diagnosis, the CAT scans, but eventually it comes down to interpreting the output of these scans. And machines are just a lot more, like they don't get tired. They can look into every single pixel of that scan and every single digit of that output and can understand if there is probably something going on that should not be going on. So they help doctors, pointing them into the right directions. And as a result, we all, if we're in a situation where we need these kind of healthcare diagnosis systems, we all benefit from it because it's more likely that we're spotting a disease early where it's treatable and we can be fine after. Whereas without that, we might actually miss something and we might actually go down a very different route. So this is where machine learning comes in super handy because it helps people making these decisions super quickly and they're less prone to error, for example, due to a long shift at the hospital. As I said, machines are not getting tired here. So healthcare is a central industry that is probably getting disrupted by machine learning in the short term because the benefits are just so high. Another thing or another industry that is getting disrupted by machine learning right now is the financial services industry. So for example, here again, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of, for example, financial data from the stock markets that is easy to measure and can be fed into one or more machine learning models, trying to predict in which way the market is going based on past experiences. It's like a very, very experienced and unbiased trader that's helping people making decisions so that the wealth and the assets of people that base their trust in banks those assets are like developing in the best possible way. So we can react to market trends, we can react in real time, because most of these systems are actually able to make decisions in real time and make sure that, hey, this stock should be sold and this stock should be bought, and eventually making sure that the wealth of people increases. So financial industry, big impact on this industry through machine learning. Retail, also a very tangible, with the example of Amazon, a very tangible example here. If you look into, for example, the recommendations that you're getting, a few years back, they've been not that great, to be honest. And then over time, as for example, Amazon, but also others picked up, hey, we understand now better how people actually buy things and what they're buying in sequence. And based on that experience, we can now recommend, or they can now recommend, better things for you. So you are having the best experience when you're shopping online. And honestly, for retail, having that assistant that is like, oh yeah, this is something you've bought, this new Pixel phone, and you should really buy a case for it. And you should look at this one because it's super beautiful. And people like you that have a similar profile and that we had a similar footprint from you, they bought this particular case, and this might actually be something that you're interested in as well. So for retail, also machine learning comes in super handy and is helping people to make better decisions. All right, so we've covered now that machine learning is actually something that's very easy to be understood. It's something where we basically just train machines to look at past data and then give us an input on, hey, it's most likely a dog or it's most likely a cat. So it helps us making decisions very, very quickly, right? So it's a very tiny little but very powerful helper for human beings. We've also looked into examples, for example, Spotify, or for example, the pizza delivery, where it comes to life, and also which industries are probably going to be disrupted by it right now or in the near future. Until now, this has not been related to any Google products, really, despite mentioning the Google Home Assistant really, really briefly in between. Now we're turning into Google marketing products and how they are using machine learning right now, and what kind of products are coming out later this year, for example, also leveraging the power of machine learning. So let's dive right into it. So first of all, it's very important that everything that we built at Google is actually utilizing machine learning. So going back to this, all of our big places that we have all over the internet are actually using machine learning right now. So if you look at the Chrome, the browser, if you look into the Android platform, all of them use machine learning. For example, on YouTube, all these recommendations that you're getting for new and interesting videos, machine learning is at its core, right? So it's basically at the core of everything that we do. Few examples. The Google Clips camera is something that I have enjoyed playing around with a lot. It's basically machine learning in a camera. It's something, or like basically what you do is you clip this camera to, for example, your shirt, and then you just walk around, for example, on a party. And what it basically does, it is realizing people. It's realizing, hey, it's a dog or it's a cat, it's a pet, for example. And it's trying to get the nicest and most beautiful shots from these people when they're smiling. And honestly, I've had great photos taken with this Google Clips camera. So that's a really nice application of machine learning that we can all benefit from. Google Photos in general, you've probably seen the assistant in the Google Photos app. And if you have not seen it, I urge you to download the Google Photos app and try it out. It's actually creating beautiful collages, it's creating beautiful pictures, it's enhancing those pictures. And the most stunning feature, honestly, for myself at least, is that you can just, without tagging any photo, You can just type in, hey, I want to have a picture from a beach. And then it's coming up with all these pictures that you have taken from beaches all over the world. And it's showing you those like sandy grounds, like people playing volleyball, without you telling Google Photos that this picture was taken at a beach somewhere around the world. So it's just recognizing, hey, this is probably sand and this is probably the sea, and it's realizing, hey, this is probably a beach, and it's surfacing those pictures for you. So it's got really, really great recognition technology. So it's using this past experience to actually come up with your photos that are matching your query. So please try that out. Also Gmail, also a feature that I have come to love recently, while I get a lot of emails from a lot of people, that smart reply function that is looking into the email that you got and actually recommends you a nice reply to that specific emails. It just makes your life so much easier because you don't have to like come up with a response. It's basically giving you a very good response within seconds without you actually having to come up with your own. So this is very, very handy. So this was Google products in general. Now let's dive into machine learning in digital advertising in the last few minutes. So you all take care of ads, and here are 3 things that are really important and that showcase really nicely how machine learning is part of our ads. So the first piece is that machine learning is increasing the functionality or gives new functionalities to what was not possible before. Best possible example is automated bidding. So you know that with bidding manually on keywords, what you were doing is you were saying, for everybody, being it a person that is interesting for me as a business or not interesting for me as a business, as a buyer, if they type in that keyword, they are most likely an interesting person. But if somebody is not an interesting person, you had no way to know that. And the way it's working now is that we use the data that we have from people that are putting in queries. And what we enable you to do with automated bidding is that we say, okay, if there is somebody typing in a keyword that is super interesting for me as a business, we want to make sure, and we will make sure, that the ad for this person is on position number 1. And that gives you the most likelihood, or the biggest likelihood, of that ad being clicked. Whereas, for example, if like my little brother is typing in the same keyword as I typed in before, and he is just typing in the keyword, but he's not really interested in buying, and he does not have there's no data set telling the system that, hey, this is an interesting person in terms of our business, we will lower it a bit, and we will probably not even enter the auction for this person. So he will, even though he is putting in the same keyword as I did, he's probably not getting an ad because he's not likely to buy. So we're saving money on this person, whereas we're investing it only where it really counts. Right? So this is a new functionality that we have in automated bidding, which is now driven by machine learning. The second piece is surfacing insights from historical data. So for example, in our planning tools, in our recommendations, in our budgeting tools, you will be able to see, hey, this is probably going to cost this and that based on prior experience and historical data, and we will be able to give you that upfront. Right? So you're more certain about which investment to make. And the last piece is machine learning is not taking away anything from you. It's basically just helping you to focus on the stuff that human brains are made for. So for example, being able to craft the right ad, being able to identify the right business challenge, being able to optimize the landing site, and coming up with creative ways to do all of that. This is what we need humans for. But for identifying the right bid for the exact person, that's something, because there's so many queries coming in real time, that's something that human beings are not that good at. So we should leave this stuff to a machine using machine learning, and all the other stuff that we need humans for, that should be left to humans. So this is why machine learning is a incredibly important part of our ads. So which areas in terms of Google products are most impacted? Google audiences, so basically understanding how my audience is behaving. That's a vital part. Automated bidding, I just talked about that. Data-driven attribution, so understanding which clicks are actually most critical for a conversion and surfacing and attributing conversions to exactly this click. And also stuff like, for example, universal app campaigns, where we just say, hey, give us all the creative, give us all the input that you need, give us a budget, and we will get you the most apps, downloads, and the best lifetime value possible. So these are the areas where we should all use machine learning and apply these machine learning techniques as much as possible, because they're just really, really good, and eventually will help you increase your ROI. So let's look a little bit deeper. In the audience piece, we are able to capture the interests, behaviors, and likelihood of users to do something, because we can look into their past history with Google. This is where the whole learning from example is really coming to life. For automated bidding, we have all of these signals from people like interacting with their mobile phones, interacting with the web. So we can understand, again, from past experience and from historical data, if they are a great fit for your business or not, and hence determine the best possible ad position for that person. For attribution, as I said, we are creating bespoke attribution models for every customer that has DDA available to determine if this or that ad click and this or that campaign is really the one that is increasing your ROI. And again, for UACs, for universal app campaigns, we are, based on historical data, able to identify users that are most likely to download the app and convert in it. So this is where it's most important to use machine learning in the audience region, in automation, especially automated bidding, and in the app business and attribution. So the idea of this is basically to make machine learning work for you. You put in a key business objective, you determine your audience, and we will do the rest, the heavy lifting for you in the middle, making real-time decisions as you go. So here are some examples that we already talked about that demonstrate more efficient marketing. Google similar audiences, you've probably heard about that before. What we do is that we, based on prior experience and data, we look into people that are similar to the people that are already in your remarketing lists, so we can identify them. The next piece is an example here for that. So for example, if you had people that are in your list that are looking for stuff in Hawaii, and for hotels in Hawaii, and they're booking with you, we can find people that are very close to exactly that behavior and find them for you. For smart bidding, as I already said, we help you determine who is a very important customer for your business and who is less likely to buy from you. And based on that data, we will serve as an ad at the very top or at the very bottom. For universal app campaigns, as I said, we are able to actually help you invest money only where we see a good chance that there is a lot of value behind the customer. And last but not least, we use machine learning in data-driven attribution. Already talked about that, but it's extremely important that you leverage attribution. And if you have it available, please use the data-driven attribution models. All right, so this is what we already have in store for you, and I would urge you to use the audience signal, the remarketing lists, use automated bidding. Please do that, because you are not able to bid on an individual user basis with manual bidding. This is only something that our advanced systems can do, like maximize conversion, like target CPA, like target ROAS. Those are the things you should be looking into. Please talk to your Google representative for more information here. And also on top of that, please use data-driven attribution or any non-last click attribution model or UAC campaigns if you are selling ads. So let's look into stuff that's going to come out later this year. This is the very exciting last few minutes here. And the last piece is in-market search ads. So we're using the power of in-market segments in search ads so that the in-market ads can help you in your performance-driven goals and help you understanding that or like which customers these ads should surface to. So it helps you acquiring basically new customers that are in market that are ready to buy right now, and you can focus on those. So those are three really cool and very nice product launches and changes that are coming to you later this year. All right. Last thing to say here is that we will building a lot more things and products and giving you updates that have machine learning at the core. We are building everything that we're building right now with machine learning in mind because we understand that it just makes everything that we do so much more effective and efficient. So with that, we're actually going to the Q&A to understand what kind of questions you guys had and see what's on your mind. All right. So the first question that we have is, how do you implement on a practical basis if you're not a coder? Excellent question. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the most important thing to note here is that, yes, you can go deep. You can do coding, and you can use, for example, TensorFlow, which is an open source library for machine learning. But you can also just like dip your toes in it and make use of the stuff that other people, for example, Google has already built. So for agencies and for advertising customers in general, dipping your toe into data-driven attribution to make sure that we are you are understanding, and also we're understanding which ads and which interactions with campaigns are super meaningful and where we should double down and where we should not invest that much money. So data-driven attribution, really, really important. So that is the simplest way probably to make sure that you're understanding correctly what's happening in your AdWords account. The next thing is automated bidding. I know that there's a few people that had not that great experiences with automated bidding in the past because these systems have not been leveraging machine learning in the past. They were good, but in some cases they weren't very accurate. So what we did is we basically revamped all of them. And I would urge you to use machine learning-based automated bidding systems, like, for example, maximum conversions, target CPA, and target ROAS, whenever you have the chance to do so. Just be mindful that all of these systems, because they work on past experiences and historical data, they have a learning period. So make sure that you give it at least 1 or 2 weeks to ramp up. And then also make sure you look at the conversion delay that you have in pretty much every campaign to make sure that you're not judging the performance of a campaign that's running automated bidding prematurely, right? So this is the most important thing to keep in mind. Then you're able to unlock great results in most cases where you see the conversion volume increasing and the CPA dropping if you put in a realistic target metric like the target CPA or the target ROAS that's achievable. The last piece is please also leverage our similar audiences list where you can find new people based on the data and the historical list that you already have. So these three should be top of mind for every agency at the moment. So let's look into the next questions. We have a lot of questions around what's the best way to get started. Kyle Fitzpatrick is asking, can machine learning help for remarketing lists? Absolutely. Machine learning lists, machine learning-based lists, for example, the similar audiences lists perform great, and I would urge you to make use of them. Adil is asking about the ad suggestions that are coming out later on. He's asking if that is what kind of ads can be created on top of that. The way it basically works is that we're reassembling the ads from ads that you already have in your account. So it's basically not creating new things from scratch. It's basically just pairing things that will have the most, the biggest projected conversion rate based on prior data. So basically, we are mixing and matching things that are most likely the best possible answer to your potential customer's question that they put into Google. Right? So we're mixing and matching things here. Let me look through the rest of this sheet real quick. Machine learning will provide the automated bidding. It means it will help in increasing ROI. Absolutely, that's an excellent question. What we see throughout pretty much every campaign that has a realistic target, so the target CPA is set in the right way, and also it's been given the right time to learn. You can actually see this learning period and see if it's learning. If you go in the campaign view, and if you have target CPA, for example, running, you can see under bidding strategy, in the column bidding strategy in the front end, you can click on, in this case, target CPA, and it will show you what it's doing right now. It will show you how long it's probably going to take to learn, if it's getting disrupted because there were changes made during the ramp up of the campaign. So it's giving you a lot of insight already inside of the AdWords front end. All right. There's also a very interesting question around how the traditional advertising industry can leverage machine learning. I'd say this is something where you can leverage online marketing, help get do your market research, for example, through understanding how different keywords perform. So use AdWords as a marketing research tool in this case, and make use of the machine learning tools that are built into AdWords and leverage them for the first start. And then later on, try to learn from past experiences, try to gather data as much as you can, and make sure you build a machine learning model around it and tap into programmers that can help you along the way. This is probably the most questions, covering the most questions that we had so far. Also, make sure that you're using the Twitter handle to discuss further on Twitter, and let's see if we can get you some answers there as well, or you can get yourself some answers there as well. This was very fun. I hope you liked it and you enjoyed this session on machine learning. The next session will be more specific on automated bidding and smart bidding. So stay tuned for that, please, and join in the next time. This is me. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you in the next episode. Bye.